So I would encourage, anyone listening to this to go to museums, surround yourself with people that enrich you, and let content, movies, media come to you out of a recommendation. Outside of that, don't brain rot yourself.
Hello and welcome to everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Start, Scale, Exit. It is a pleasure to have you today. This is the space where we share with SaaS leaders and founders and business leaders their successes, stories, and challenges that have forced them into the leaders they are today. And today we are very excited. Very excited because we have a unique, I think this is the first open source platform that we have on the show. And I'm very excited to welcome Harrison Telyan to the show. Harrison, it is a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Excellent. All right. So before we get started, I'd like to play a very quick game. Okay. So this game is called Scale It or Scrap It. Right. So I'm going to tell you a few trends that are going on in the market. You tell us what you think about it. You say scale it or scrap it. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So let's get started. Unlimited time off, unlimited PTO. What do you think? Scale it or scrap it?
Am I allowed to share an opinion after I give an answer?
Of course.
Yeah, scrap it because people actually end up using less time. And I think more time off is necessary to clear the head.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, each team member of a company doing their own technology to work. Anyone building their own tools. What do you think about scale it or scrap it?
Anyone build it? How do you mean? Like everyone is part of one team using different softwares?
Building their own thing to do their job the best they can.
Scale it. Let's see where it goes.
Remote only teams.
Scrap it. Never works. People work less. And I think it's an easy way out. And it's typically, from what I've seen in my own experience, draws less ambitious people. And I'm not terribly interested in hanging out with less ambitious people.
There you go. Meetings on a treadmill.
Down. Yeah. Scale it. Why not? Yeah. Get fit while, pushing a commit.
Beautiful. So thank you so much for playing along. We're going to talk about today. I want to deep dive a little bit into FlowGlad. But before we go into that, can you share I know you're a product designer. You've had this experience for a long period of time before you decided to launch your own platforms. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey? How is it that you, first of all, arrived into platform design? How did you change your mindset to create your first ventures? Then how did you come to FlowGlad? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So just rewinding the clock way, way back, I could take you back to like my high school days. So in my high school days, I was building on Squarespace and Wix for mom and pop shops. And I did everything from the photography for their products, like a clothes or a frame store or a print shop. And then I would get them online. And then I would also add them to Yelp, add them to Foursquare. So this is like way, way, way back in the day. And so I've always had like a lot of different startup businesses kind of like going in parallel, but this is where I think like this is like if I had to point to one moment in time where like my being as it is today kind of came into existence, I would point to that. That business carried all the way into RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, where I went to school and studied for a BFA in industrial design, the same major that Brian Chesky studied from Airbnb at RISD. And
Did you meet him?
I was still, I've met him a handful of times. Yeah. Great, sweet guy. Yeah. Very tenacious. And a testament to like how far design founders can go in their career. And he's definitely a motivation to me and inspiration. Continued on this mom and pop, building website business, all the way through school. I then had like this. One of my favorite pastimes was reaching out to companies where I thought that they could use improvement. So oftentimes, what I would do is reach out to PMs or the CEOs of these companies over email, and like 9 times out of 10, I just wouldn't hear back from them. One of those companies that I did this with was Imager.com. At the time, it was I think like the 16th most trafficked website in the world, which was pretty insane. And it's definitely still up there, but not like it was.
What year are we talking about?
So this is like 2014. So this is the year that I'm graduating. And so I really had no idea where I was going to end up. I had spent 2 internships at a company called City Maps, which later got acquired by TripAdvisor. And I was doing some like odd jobs here and there. Again, still doing this like mom and pop shop, Wix and Squarespace service. And I wrote into Imager, didn't hear back from them. So I was like, how do I get their attention? So I uploaded an image of the app redesign the way that I thought it should be redesigned. It got quickly upvoted to the number one slot on Imager. And then the next day, I get a call from Alan. I think it's a prank, like a really mean prank. It turns out it wasn't. It was actually Alan. So I hung up on him. He calls back. He's like, no, this is actually Alan from Imager. And so I was like, whoa, crazy. Would you like to be our founding product designer? I said, yes, of course. I was like the 12th person there on the team. And this was prior to the $40 million infusement from Andreessen Horowitz. So I watched that company scale within a year to ridiculous heights. We were hiring multiple people every single week. It was a crazy experience. I then wanted something a little bit, I loved my time at Imager, but it's an image sharing app. So it can only exercise and flex design thinking so much. So I wanted to go onto this complete opposite end and focus on the like a digitized version of the mortgage process. So I went off to Syndio, and at Syndio learned a ton about like the home buyer that was panicking all the time and solving their needs. Ultimately, they shuttered, and then I took those same lessons to a next gen company that was working on in a similar way what Syndio was working on, and they then later got acquired by SoFi. It was after SoFi's acquisition that I took a one-way flight to Nairobi in Kenya, Africa.
All right.
And it was with my co-founder who I had met at Clara. We had stumbled upon many, many different pivots, but ultimately stayed there for 4 years. And my father had died towards the beginning of COVID, and the unit economics, while we were growing like gangbusters and actually went toe to toe and beat out a publicly listed company called Jumia, which is like the Amazon of Africa, we ultimately decided to shutter our doors. And sprinkled in between there was when we also got accepted into Y Combinator. So I think YC invested in us just out of like a morbid curiosity as to like what these guys are doing in Africa and like how are they, what are they building? Like let's see what happens. So then what ended up happening was
Just stop you
yeah,
first. Why
yeah.
Kenya?
It's the bellwether for all new technology. So for those on the continent watching, you all know M-Pesa, but for those that don't know M-Pesa, look it up because that is what is going to replace legacy banking.
Okay.
Like I won't say any more on that because it's just like it's very advanced and it's in a third world country, and you look at that and you're like, huh, there's something there. Like everyone over there is like hella ambitious. They are very tech forward thinking, and we believe that a lot of the legacy infrastructure hadn't really created a toehold in those markets, and so we saw an opportunity there. And also like the GDP was raising like 13-14% year over year compared to like America's or any Western first world country at like 2-3% a year. Crazy differences. So very exciting. Uh, Started getting calls from my founder friends about, hey, can you do this design work? And I was like, kind of still in mourning, both for the startup and my father's death. And I was like, no, but I have this great friend. And so then Numi was born, Numi.tech. And so we are your startup's design department. And so now it's grown into something quite wonderful. We're doing about 2 million ARR. It's headed up by a CEO that we put in there to replace us so that we can focus full time on Flowglad. And she's wonderful. Her name is Hannah Pobar. And it's a guild of about 60 designers. We have a handful of packages. We can build your MVP. We can do brand work. We could also do a lot of thought partnership, but we also do IC work. And most importantly, the product designers that you end up working with, they understand urgency and they are filtered for communication, high quality work, and most importantly, they understand urgency. So, you know,
It's not just
dur-
AI driven, it's AI and human driven.
yeah, both importantly, because I think it's really, really hard to delegate taste and product thinking to AI. I'm not saying it won't get there in the future, but
Yeah,
for right
yeah.
now,
It's
it's
absolutely.
incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And, through those 2 years, so we got to those numbers in a little under a year, which is wild. So it was just operated by myself and my co-founder, and we hit those numbers. And that was like good pat on the back. But, at the end of the day, it was a leverage design agency and we want something more. And so during those 2 years, we experienced so much pain and anguish around payments and billing that we said to ourselves, whatever solutions we're coming up with, I'm sure there are other companies out there that deal with the same thing.
Right.
So that led to Flowglad. And so we spun Flowglad out. It's still considered a YC company, and we are now able to fund Flowglad given the free cash flow. So it pays for our salaries, it pays for our computer, software, office stuff, and all that jazz. And what this allows for, I say this because a lot of startups are pressured by time or VC capital.
Mhm.
And VCs, all they are just like loan sharks in khakis, as my co-founder likes to say. And so, with all that pressure, you can't really think in terms of quality. And when you're dealing in the payments and billing space specifically, quality is something that it's a first class concern. And
Sure.
so we are very, very fortunate to be able to have the time and space to think. It's not to say that we won't go out and fundraise. We certainly want to press the fast forward button at some point. But during these early stages, we are prioritizing customer conversations, good architecture, reliable and dependable code, documentation, stabilization, and rich features such as like a double-sided ledger, an MCP, and a whole host of other things. So
Beautiful.
yeah, that's where I am now.
Would you say, I know it's a YC company, it's part of YC, but do you think can you call it the bootstrap Flowglass?
Oh, yeah, it's 100% bootstrapped. And, one thing that we promised ourselves after leaving Africa, if it's one thing that Africa taught us, it's how to be shrewd and how to test profitably and how to make an MVP profitably. So, Agree and I, we have developed, Agree is my co-founder. We have developed this allergic reaction to building before we have tried selling. And we have developed an allergic reaction before selling to get our ideas validated first. And validation comes through UX research. So UX research, try to then parity it back to the feedback that you receive from customers to them as a solution, and then ask, would you pay for that? If they say yes, great, go and build it, go build an MVP, and then come back to them and then ask them to open up their wallet. But if they say no,
Don't even waste your time.
next. Yeah.
Part of my goal here at Start Scale Exit is that people take at least one actionable golden nugget after listening to you, right? Today I have I can't stop writing. I think there's many, so we're deep diving, okay?
That's very flattering.
So number one, please to our audience, write it down. Test profitably. Go first, sell the idea first, and then build. Don't start pouring tons of money. Sell the idea first. If people are willing to buy, then build. Is that what you're saying right now, Harrison?
I mean, just think about it, right? Like if you're giving away a product for free and it's to 100 people, you have 100 people asking you things that they, when it comes down to it, are not going to pay for. And even worse, they are distracting you because they are getting your time on equal footing as to someone that would pay you. And so what ends up happening is you listen to all this noise and you build in the wrong direction. You actually build towards a place where no one's paying you, right?
Right.
But if you're listening, if you're selective, of course, listen to like some of those freemium users, but the majority should be reading between the lines of the paying customers and building towards them.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now let me go to other points that I've been writing like crazy because we don't have a lot of time. I know you're a very busy person, so I want to get the most out of you while we have you here. So you went to Kenya, right? So
Yeah.
one of the things is if you want to do things differently, you really have to think differently. And traveling to different places is definitely a mind opener for a lot of people. What has been your experience? I mean, besides Kenya, what are the kind of things that you do that allow you to see things differently?
Well, I mean, I think one of uh, my favorite pastimes is to visit museums. I think like one of the biggest hedges against AI and making sure that you're still hireable is developing taste. And so if you are to go to museums like I have, I've been taken to museums my entire life. My mom like was quite religious about every single Friday after school taking my sister and I to a new museum in New York City every single Friday. And obviously we repeated some museums over the years, but like she was quite religious about that. And so I would encourage, anyone listening to this to go to museums, surround yourself with people that enrich you, and let content, movies, media come to you out of a recommendation. Outside of that, don't brain rot yourself.
Excellent. So I'm taking down go to museums, enrich yourself, surround yourself with those that are going to lift you up and that are going to enrich you, to have interesting conversations that can add value to your life. Which takes me to
And
the other
also
point.
like poke and prod. Also, sorry to interrupt, like also just like poke and prod the way that you think. Like definitely not surrounding yourself with like yes people, but challenging yourself to, be held accountable to different points of view and to better yourself.
So let me ask you a question. How do you do that with your team? Because once you hire somebody, they're on your payroll, right? How do you ensure that they're not just gonna tell you yes to what you want to hear, but that they're gonna be honest and true to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll probably have to take a moment to think about that, but my knee-jerk reaction to it is I think it all starts with you as the founder. And so if you are able to do what you do at the level of tenacity that these billion-dollar conglomerates, founders work at, like you're going to inspire, right? And so I would say like leading through inspiration is probably my go-to answer. And I think one of the ways that you can avoid hiring the wrong people is through your hiring process and making sure that you're getting an idea of how they think, how they work. Like for me, I would be fairly uninterested in hiring engineers that work at FANG companies like Facebook or Netflix or Google, because odds are I'm sure their code is clean, but is clean and thorough going to get you to an MVP in like a couple weeks? Probably not. And so seeing how someone thinks about the inputs just as much as the outputs is pretty important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the human factor that continues to be the most important element. They say hire for values and then fire for non-results, right?
Yeah, sure.
Now, another point that I want to ask you, you were describing how you got your, say, your quote unquote, your first job. You were doing odd jobs and you were doing weeks and websites and so on, what have you. But you said you went to this company. I forgot to write down what the company was it, but you said, I sent them the, how do I think their design should be? I added
Oh, yeah.
value first, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
once you added value, they called you and they said, come on over. So
Yeah.
in this era where people, there's a lot of anxiety about what's going to happen to a lot of jobs with AI, what's happening in tech in the world, and so on, are even developers going to be needed, so on and so forth. So one thing that you did right there is you added value first, right? And I think that is, there's nothing that beats that. If you think you're thorough, you target one client, one company, you add value to them, they eventually are going to come back to you. Probably not, but odds are they are. So what did you add to this process? Because to me it was very. I mean, you did it on your own.
Yeah, I
Perfect.
gotcha. Like I've never, yeah, so I've never applied to a job. I've always believed that if you give away the farm and if you just share everything that you have and all your expertise, people gravitate naturally towards that. And they're not dumb, right? Like even when you're selling a product, but even when I was selling Numi or even when I'm selling Flowglad, I'm not actually selling. I've just become like really good at listening and trying to understand what tips and tricks I can provide. And they eventually do end up asking, so like, can you tell me a little bit more about Numi? Can you tell me a little bit more about Flowglad? But if your motive is to, like, I'd much rather have a one-to-one conversation with the founder that's like thoughtful and increase the odds of conversion than I would to use like an outbound, motion where I'm reaching out to 100 founders with very low quality spin sentences developed by AI and stuff. And, I don't know if that's going to really scale. I don't think it will, but for now, it's what works. And doing hand to hand combat inside of people's DMs is how I plan to roll until like Series B.
Beautiful, Harrison. I want to go into a section of our show called Mirror Mirror. Okay.
Sure.
So imagine you're interviewing yourself. Okay. What is one question that you wish that people ask you, or that you think it would be a very interesting question to ask you that probably no one does? What would be a key question that you would ask yourself?
I wish that more people asked me, just since I have so much like scar tissue around it, I can probably help some people out, especially like young, ambitious founders. Is like, what should I be thinking about when I get the idea of becoming a founder?
Okay.
And what I would say to them is, anyone can become a founder. I would pat them on the back and say, like, that's amazing that you want to take agency of your life. And make sure that you're not putting out a solution in search of a problem. Make sure that you actually are going outside of friends and family to 15 or more people and either observing a problem or inferring a problem in a low cost, profitable way, and then be able to go back to them. And just like I was saying before, like try to sell before you build, because I think you'll go through like 10 or 20 ideas before you actually hit any form of traction. And it could be really, really discouraging to see all these headlines on like TechCrunch or Forbes 30 under 30 about like how it seemingly is the case that all these startups just hit it big, within, a short amount of time. But I could promise you across like all my founder friends, um, that is never the case. Like that's never ever the case. You need to just have like mental resilience and fortitude and gumption. And it probably takes on average like 2 to 4 years to actually build something, and even then you're still worried about it.
Right, right. So I think you're absolutely right. Many times we try to build products instead of focusing on a solution to a problem. I mean, because it's so
Yeah,
fancy to build a product, but the reality is that the product is just a way to solve a problem. People want the problem solved. They don't want a product, right? So what you're saying is right. We can come up with these great ideas when the most important element is what problem are we solving? What value are we adding? That was a phenomenal question. So I have
like
a few more things before we get. See, today I know you're very very present time, and I really appreciate you taking Harrison the time today.
yeah, of course. Yeah, happy to be here.
I have a few things to ask more. Favorite book? What is your favorite book?
Probably Moby Dick. I read it like way too early, but it really stuck with me. I think it's because of like how like the odds how all the odds against both the whale and the crew were just stacked up against each other. But for anyone who has not read Moby Dick, I would definitely read Moby Dick.
Beautiful. Most important habit.
Most important habit is going to bed early and waking up. It's sleep. Sleep, I'm a huge, huge believer in sleep being the foundation for all good decision making.
Right? You know, I was in a meeting with probably 90 other entrepreneurs, and they were asking, who sleeps 8 hours a day? And I raised my hand, and then the speaker said, lucky you. And I just turned around. No one else raised their hands when they asked, who sleeps 8 hours a day. So I agree with you. I love my sleep.
Yeah, and I'll just say like one thing to like hustle culture. I would be willing to reckon that my days are way more productive and efficient than the people that are not getting 8 hours of sleep.
Agree. Agree. Favorite app, AI or SaaS tool?
I think this is an easy one. Robinhood. Robinhood has absolutely swallowed the young investor market with good design and good progressive disclosure. You can be as simple as you want in investing, or you can use their most advanced tool, Robinhood Legend, and go as deep as you'd like. I feel like it kind of goes head to head with like the Bloomberg terminal, which has been unchallenged for decades.
Excellent. Beautiful. So, Harrison, before we let you go, we want to let our audience know that this episode of Start, Scale, Exit is sponsored by Synthesis. If you need to build or scale your current SaaS product, or maybe you just need to enhance your current development team, Synthesis might be right for you. For more information, look at www.synthesis, that is SINTESYS.com. Harrison, it has been a real pleasure having you on the show.
Likewise,
You're
I
giving
really
me a
appreciate it.
I'm so happy to meet you at this mid successful career because I know you're gonna hit it big. Once
I hope.
much bigger. I'm pretty sure of that, and I hope that our listeners get at least one golden nugget. I'm gonna tell you mine's. So mine's is add value first, test profitable, surround yourself with people who are gonna lift you. Go to museums, go to sleep early, visit Kenya. So with
Visit
all
Kenny,
these
yeah. Sure.
Golden nuggets. I really hope that our audience gets a lot to work on, and I appreciate your time today. Any final words that you want to tell our listeners, and how can they reach out to you if you want them to?
Yeah, I would encourage all young founders, or not young founders, to reach out to me if you ever want advice. I'm very approachable. I pride myself on that. You can reach out over LinkedIn. You can join our FlowGlad Discord, and I'd be remiss if I didn't plug FlowGlad. It's drop-in payments and billing for developers. It's payments anyone can program. We're right now working on a double-sided ledger. Everything's 100% open source, and we're working on an MCP, and we pride ourselves on just being approachable. So if you have a product that has not been monetized, or you're looking for a monetization engine, check out flowglad.com, FLOWGLAD.com. And hope to help you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Harrison Telyan, ladies and gentlemen, on the show. Build it, start it, scale it, and then if you want, exit it. Thank you so much. Looking forward to see you all in the next episode. Bye-bye.
See ya.